Hey everybody, Tosan here with a Frost DK talent guide. I know what you're thinking, wow, I didn't even know you had a Frost DK and now you're making a talent guide. That's right, I rolled a Frost DK very recently, a little bit under a week ago, and I've been having a blast on it. I've been mostly doing like some LFG and stuff, but we're getting up there. But I just wanted to, I went through and learned the talents and everything since I rolled this class, and I poked the brains of some other DKs, like Mez, to see what they think about it. And most of the stuff is pretty obvious, I guess. But I figured I'd make this guide real quick so you guys who maybe are rolling Frost DKs or already had one, they're very fun, by the way. That way you guys can, not worry about the talents and all the boring stuff, and you can get right into smashing your face on the keyboard and slaying noobs. So, let's go over the talents as quickly and efficiently as possible, shall we? So, first tier of talents, I guess all of them are kind of viable. Runic Attenuation is better in PvE, and I mean, Icy Talons, Shattering Strikes, they're all pretty good, but I've been leaning towards, I used Icy Talons for a while, and I've been leaning towards Shattering Strikes. It's really hard to quantify, because the thing is Icy Talons gives you attack speed, so if you have a lot of uptime and you're Frost Striking often, you're going to get, 36% extra attack speed, right? Which is nice because that synergizes well with Permafrost, getting you a bigger absorb shield, and it also, your auto attacks proc Killing Machine, which gives you more, guaranteed crit obliterates. However, a lot of the time you're switching targets a lot in Arena, and you're getting kited a lot in Arena sometimes, so it's really hard to quantify how much this attack speed and getting crit obliterates is actually helping you, you know what I mean? And honestly, in Arena, you're a burst class for the most part, you're not like a rot pressure class. So, increasing your DPS over time marginally with something like this, I don't think is quite as good as just having a burstier attack every once in a while. So, I've been leaning towards Shattering Strikes lately. Now, it might seem counterintuitive to, drop your Razor Ice stacks, because then you're going to lose, that damage increase on your Frost abilities briefly while it restacks. But fear not, your stacks go up very quickly. Every time you obliterate, you're attacking, with both weapons, and then you have your auto attacks, and your Frost Strikes also attack with both weapons. So you stack up your Razor Ice stacks very quickly. It's constantly filling up and then dropping for that extra Frost Strike damage, and I think it really lends well to your burst job in Arena. So I think Shattering Strikes and Icy Talons are both good, but I suggest Shattering Strikes. In this tier, both Murderous Efficiency and Freezing Fog are good, but the main argument for Freezing Fog being better is mainly because when you pop your Swifty cooldowns, right, your Pillar of Frost and Hungering Rune weapon every minute, that's when you're going to usually get your kills. Usually every minute you're going to either force major cooldowns or get kills, because these cooldowns together are so potent. So the reason Freezing Fog is generally better is because, well, this helps you with consistent rune regeneration. And the thing I like about Murderous Efficiency is in between your Swifty cooldowns, you have more runes available on average to do things like Chains of Ice melee off of your teammates and make their life hell, right? But you're not generally that rune starved even without your cooldowns, so it's not totally worth it. And Freezing Fog is going to increase your burst when you're popping your cooldowns, which is the most important part of an arena match, because every 1 minute when you pop your Swifties, what matters most is about squeezing out the most DPS possible during your cooldowns. And Freezing Fog is going to do that. Every time you get your Howling Blast proc, you're going to blast everybody near you, and it's going to do 20% more damage. So that will maximize your burst when it matters most. So Freezing Fog is the better choice overall. Next tier of talents, Avalanche is the best. Mainly because it's just free damage. It's nothing crazy or anything like that, but this is just not a very good ability. Glacial Advance. Now, Ice Cap is good in PvE, I'm pretty sure, and it may seem tempting, like, hey, why wouldn't you want to reduce the cooldown of such a powerful offensive ability, right? But the reason you don't want to reduce the cooldown is because then it's going to desync from your Hungering Rune weapon, and you want to use them together. See, when you take Hungering Rune weapon, it's a 3-minute cooldown baseline, right? But then you have this Honor talent that reduces it by another 2 minutes. So it's going to make it 1 minute. So Pillar and Hungering Rune weapon in PvP are both 1 minute. So you want them to stay synced up. So if you're reducing the cooldown of this one, they're going to be split apart, and you don't want to use them separately. You want to use them together for maximum Swifty action. So that's why you want to stay away from Ice Cap for PvP. So Avalanche is the way to go there. This one, you would change between Winter is Coming and Blinding Sleet, depending on what comp you're playing. Generally, you're going to take Winter is Coming for most of the time, for general use, because having that AoE stun stack up on people is so good. It's a physical stun. The debuff from Winter is Coming, while it's stacking, is magical, and it can be dispelled, or AMS'd, or Cloak of Shadows off, stuff like that. But the actual stun itself is a physical, non-dispellable stun, so it's very powerful. And Blinding Sleet you would take if you're playing a composition where you already have a lot of stuns available. Like if you're playing Smoke Bomb Cleave, as they call it, which is DK Rogue. If you're playing a DK Subtlety Rogue, you're not going to want to DR the Subtlety Rogue stuns. You want the Subtlety Rogue to be able to decide when to fully stun lock somebody and go ham. So if you're playing with a Rogue, you're going to want to take Blinding Sleet to not screw up his DR. Same with the Windwalker Monk. If you're playing Windwalker DK, you don't want to be DRing your Windwalker stuns all the time. You want him to be able to do perfect stun lock setups whenever your team is ready to go. So as DK Windwalker, you generally take Blinding Sleet, and same with a Sub-Rogue. With a Feral, I don't think Feral stuns so much that you have to worry about it, you know? So I think this is okay with a Feral, but either one I think would work in that case. Next talent tier, Permafrost and Inexorable Assault are also viable options. The main thing is Permafrost should be the default that you take most of the time, because this only works if you're being kited and are still in combat. So if there's enemies that are not within 8 yards, but you're still in combat, you know, casting Howling Blast or Chains of Ice from far away, this is going to stack up every 1 second, and it's going to increase your damage. It says 100k, which seems like a lot, but this is not in PvP instances. It's a lot less in PvP instances. It's like 35k or something like that. So it's not super strong, but if you're fighting a composition that is going to kite you a lot, maybe you're fighting Warlock Mage, right? And they're going to be using gateways, and the mage is going to be blinking a lot, and you're going to be slowed out in the middle of the map, then you can take this, because if you have low uptime, you're not going to get many auto attacks to make use of Permafrost. And if you're getting kited a lot, at least this will stack up and add some DPS when you finally do connect. So I would only take Inexorable Assault if you're playing classes where you know you're going to be kited around the map a lot. Other than that, Permafrost is the way to go. Next tier of talents, Gathering Storm is definitely the way to go. This is going to increase the duration and damage of your Remorseless Winter. So when you pop your Swifties, you pop Remorseless Winter, Hungering Rune Weapon, and Pillar of Frost, and you go ham. And every time you like Obliterate or Howling Blast and spend a rune, and remember, when you have Hungering Rune Weapon active, you're going to basically have unlimited runes almost, you know? So you're going to spam these runes, and you're doing tons of damage, and it's going to increase the damage of your Remorseless Winter by 150% at max. It stacks up to 10. Tooltip doesn't say it, but it stacks up to 10, so it'll do 150% increased damage, and you're AoEing oftentimes multiple players with this, which is insanely good. And it's going to increase the duration, so that's going to last even longer, which is also very good with Winter is Coming, because it gives you more time if you get kited or a mage blinks away and you only got this stacked up 2 or 3 times. Being able to spend runes and increase the duration means you can reconnect to the target and finally stack that stun up on them as well. So Gathering Storm is hands down the best. The other talents just suck in PvP. For this last tier of talents, Hungering Rune Weapon is definitely the way to go. I didn't play DK before this patch. I only rolled it recently, but I heard it was buffed by, I don't think it used to have the 20% haste on it. Correct me if I'm wrong, but this is an amazing cooldown, and the ability to turn it into a 1-minute cooldown with this means it syncs up perfectly with Pillar of Frost. So every 1 minute, you are a DPS god. So this is definitely the talent to go, Hungering Rune Weapon. Now, as for the honor talents, generally speaking, you want to take Gladiator's Medallion. If you're an orc, you can definitely combine it. You know, the same for pretty much all my guides. This talent tier is pretty much the same. I rarely recommend adaptation, because not having that in your control kind of sucks, and the enemies can exploit it sometimes, hitting you with a crappy CC and to force you to trinket and then stun locking you to death or something. So adaptation I rarely recommend. Gladiator's Medallion is a good default pretty much all the time. Relentless is good in some scenarios, especially if you're an orc. It's really hard for me to say when to take Relentless as a non-orc. I basically never take Relentless as a human, but if I was an orc, I'd probably take Relentless most of the time, just because the synergy between the orc racial and Relentless is amazing. For this talent tier, these all have their options. I usually take Reinforced Armor just by default, but Hardiness I think is underrated and underutilized. But if I'm fighting a comp that isn't going to be attacking me very often, and maybe they're just going to dot me here or there and do a little bit of cleave damage to me, I like to take Hardiness if I know my teammate's going to be the primary kill target. Because that way, if they swap to me and try to damage me when they can't reach their main target, my teammate, it'll be harder for them to, pressure me and make my healer have to panic and heal both of us. Let's say I'm playing with a Shadow Priest, right? Or a Warlock. The Warlock or the Shadow Priest gets away at low health. My healer has to worry about topping him off. So if they swap to me, I want to be tanky initially so they're not going to chunk my health quite as much and make my healer panic. So you can take Hardiness in comps like that. It's just something you're going to have to feel with experience. And then the problem with reinforced armor is it increases your health, but it offers no actual mitigation, whereas this offers actual mitigation. So I think hardiness is actually better than reinforced armor most of the time, I'd say. And then sparring is obvious most of the time. This applies to pretty much every, you know, melee class that has sparring available. You take it against warriors, windwalkers, and you can also take it against ferals, you know, to reduce ferocious bites and shreds and stuff like that. So pretty much the pure physical damage classes. The next 4 talents are very easy to choose. Anti-Magic Zone is the best talent here. You can take Dark Sim if you want sometimes, you know, to, you know, copy a clone. Like, if you're fighting in 2s, Resto Druid, Warrior, right? Well, Anti-Magic Zone is pretty useless besides mitigating Thorns damage. So you can take Dark Sim and try to copy a Cyclone if you want, which is fine. But generally in 3v3, Anti-Magic Zone is the way to go. This mitigation cooldown is extremely powerful, even against a lot of melee classes. Frost DKs, Rets, they do magic damage too, you know, so even Enhanced Shamans do a strong portion of magic damage. So Anti-Magic Zone is just a really powerful defensive against any form of magic damage. Necrotic Aura is the general go-to in this tier because increasing all, you know, damage taken by targets around you by 8% magic damage is very strong. You do mostly magic damage. Howling Blast, Remorseless Winter, Cinder Ghost's Fury, and your Frost Strikes are all magic damage. The only physical damage you really do are auto attacks and obliterates. So this is going to increase most of your damage by 8%. So it's very good. And if you're playing with a teammate that does magic damage, even partial magic damage, it's extremely good. Even if I was playing with a full physical class like a Windwalker or a Feral Druid, I would still probably take Necrotic Aura just for buffing my own damage. There are situations I think where Heart Stop Aura and Decomposing Aura might be good, but honestly, I can't really decide when it's ever better to take those over Necrotic Aura. So I would say Necrotic is just a good default to use all the time. Last 2 talent tiers are very obvious. The other talents are just not that good. Frozen Center is amazing for the AoE root that it provides, that's very obvious, and Overpowered Rune Weapon makes this a 1-minute cooldown, which is super obviously amazing, and the other talent choices in these tiers are just not that good. But anyway, guys, that is it for this Frost DK talent guide. I hope some of you found it useful, whether you are already playing a DK, maybe as an alt, or if you're planning on rolling one. This could hopefully help you get started in the right direction without having to think about it too much. Frost DK, I know a lot of people don't like DKs. I've hated DKs since they came out, to be honest. They're very frustrating to fight at times, but I'm not going to lie. I've been having so much fun on Frost DK. The damage is just crazy, and just being able to death grip people into compromising situations is super fun. So don't hate me for playing this class. I just wanted an alt to have some fun with, some mindless, drooling fun, and this has not disappointed me yet. So I hope at least some of you found it useful, and even if you don't play the class, maybe at least you know a little bit more about the class so you can fight it better as well. So thanks for watching as always, guys, and peace out.